Anyhow, coming up right now is The Law and You. Mr. Wendel Wilkins, how are you, sir?
Good morning, sir. Good morning. Challenges with the telephone system.
Lord have mercy. When one lady complained about it this morning, she said that the calls keep dropping, especially if you're traversing the Washington Boulevard area there. So it keeps dropping. Probably we should just drop the companies one of these days. I don't know. Probably that might help. Oh, by the way, they're supposed to not.
There's some improvement in the system.
Well, a new company was supposed to come on the scene. I don't know what happened. I don't know if Storm has blown that company away. I don't know.
Let's see what happens.
Let's see what happens. My good friend, Mr. Wendel Wilkins, what's on your mind today?
Yes, we want to look at accountability in public life.
Wendel, we don't talk Spanish on this program, you know. I don't know where you come with the Spanish word. Accountability.
Well, accountability is something that is referred to on a regular basis nowadays, because we operate in a democracy, and one aspect of a democracy is accountability. And there's a legal framework that is there to ensure that there is accountability in our democracy.
Tell me more.
Get away from it. And why I want to raise it, there was a parliamentary activity about 2 weeks ago where the Auditor General was in Parliament and the Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Health was there also to account for certain transactions, and there was really a very interesting discussion that went on there. And I think that discussion between the two persons, very important persons, the head of the ministry, being the permanent secretary, Auditor General, being a constitutionally appointed person, at that PAC, the Public Accounts Committee meeting, was very interesting and illustrative of how our democracy should operate.
Right.
Because here you have it, one aspect of the public service is calling upon another public body, the Ministry of Health, to explain how they manage and account for public funds. And despite the fact that there was some dispute and a lot of heat generated in the interaction, it shows us that the accountability aspect of our democracy is working in that respect. And that should be something that we look forward to more often, where one aspect of the public service falls upon another aspect or body or authority in the public service to account and explain and to be transparent about how they manage public funds and how they operate. So I find that very interesting and a new development, because you don't find that often happening. What happens usually is that the Auditor General, that is that body that does the public sector auditing of the various bodies and authorities, makes a report, and it is tabled in Parliament, and you see deficiencies being made transparent to the public. Oftentimes, nothing is done.
Yeah, because the public, we hear it every now and again, Wendell, and, after a while, because, it's like a ball, it goes wolf, and nothing comes out. So, but I hear it after a while.
They wonder.
Yeah, man.
And we don't hear what happens in terms of the public servants who must do better, and if any losses are occurred, whether the losses have been recovered from any defaulting person or other person that would be liable for that. So we get the usual media excitement for a little while, and then it dies down
It becomes history.
Yes, another report, which is not good because the whole purpose of the accountability and transparency is to improve how the public sector operates and public officers for the well-being of the nation.
Right.
So it shouldn't be just a report and it is tabled and we don't hear anything about it. So
Let me ask you something, Wendel. Are you able at this point to recall some of the discussions? I know that there's concern about that hotel, which was leased or rented for quarantine purposes.
The Auditor General did an audit during the COVID period,
right,
during the heights of it. And the Auditor General says that the documentary aspect that should accompany the transactions between the Ministry of Health and certain private bodies was absent or not at the level of accountability as required by law.
But let me ask you something. You think that, I wonder if that goodly lady there, probably she's not bright, and probably what she's asking for is unnecessary.
Well, you see, whether we have an emergency or not,
yeah,
we can't, because of the context of emergency, do as we like.
Oh, I see.
First of all,
so probably say she's onto something then, so probably we should listen to her. Because sometimes she talk and sometimes person just dismiss what she says. Not what she, but what the department says.
The Auditor General activities are not very well liked, You will find that many of the public bodies have a tendency of dissenting on the findings of the Auditor General and to have a different explanation or some excuse why things are done that way.
So let me ask you something. If you have an organization and as a worker I do something which is wrong and I go to the boss is going to tell me that you did something wrong and I'm going to have to take the punishment, right? So what's the difference when those who are in charge of that organization now have to appear in front of the Auditor General? The Auditor General can't tell them that they did something that is not right. Well, is she qualified in that area? Is she an accountant, a chartered accountant? Who is she? She doesn't know her stuff or what?
The process is beyond blame.
Oh.
It's really to make sure that there is accountability through the transparency process of doing the investigations and looking to see if the law, because laws govern these areas of accountability, have been complied with. There is good governance, there is value for money, and the legal framework that sets out how public bodies should operate with public funds and how they manage the various public bodies have been complied with according to the law.
So basically, that department is just speaking to what ought to be done as per the law. So what you're going to argue about? No, I'm trying to understand what is happening, because sometimes I see people go to the media.
What is done is that the audit is done pursuant to various laws because there's a legal framework. It's not only just one law.
In that hearsay.
And sometimes the Auditor General finds deficiencies.
Right.
And a complaint would be made and an opportunity given to the public body to respond. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't.
No, man, that you mean they don't. How you mean they don't respond? They don't respond? So hold on. If the Auditor General asks you don't respond, what happens in that case?
Well, something should happen in terms of the ministry because the ministry must, through the permanent secretary, investigate the deficiency that the Auditor General complains of and take corrective action. And the corrective action sometimes involve a surcharge and anybody found to have not carried out their duties according to the law.
Let me ask you a question. Probably I'm putting you on the spot. I know that there was talk about a surcharge on a public official at the Ministry of Education. Have we had any such surcharge in recent times?
No, that process is still fluid and going ahead.
Okay.
Yes, so after time T, we'll know the results of whether there's a search.
After time what? After time Q or time T?
Yeah, after time T, because the thing is still in progress.
What you can do knowing that time T can be ranged away from probably 5 years to all 40 years?
Well, let us hope not.
Let us hope not.
The public eye, that's a matter of public interest.
Yes.
Somebody will ask what is happening, and it comes back into the media and the public sector.
All right, let me ask you a question, Wendel. I said I don't expect you to have the answer on your fingertips, but I'm still asking them. It is known that quite a number, in terms of accountability, it is known that quite a number of government organizations are supposed to make returns. As a matter of fact, I think they are supposed to make quarterly reports to Parliament, and they are to make annual reports. I wonder how many government departments have not made any annual reports for years.
Yeah, well, this is where the Auditor General reports comes in, because oftentimes you see the report from the Auditor General is tabled in Parliament and indicates that the accounts are outstanding for many years.
So what happens then? So the Auditor General, is the Auditor General a journalist, a reporter? Or just report to Parliament? What comes out of it?
It is now for the Public Accounts Committee to ask the defaulting body, authority or ministry, and their head to appear in Parliament now, so we all as a nation can see these persons being questioned about the failure to file accounts, do their accounts properly, or how they handle public funds.
So when they appear in the public, Andy, what happens after that?
Before Parliament and have to explain. So that is the transparency and the accountability.
No, it is transparent. Just like how somebody chop off somebody's head, it's transparent. We all saw. But it's like how if you thief Aki. If you go to King's House, you go thief Aki. It's transparent. Yeah, we see it, we know. But after that, no, dog name is supper. You go to jail. Now, what happened to those persons who have not produced any reports for years? What about those who breach the what they call the FAA?
Yes, the Financial Administration and Accountability Act.
Yes. What happens to them, by the way? They just go to Parliament and just talk?
An Audit Act, yes.
An Audit Act. What, just go to Parliament and talk? Is it just for the media?
Remember now, it is not a one-stop shop operation. The Auditor General does that work. It is reported to the public through Parliament. It is now for the Public Accounts Committee to bring the defaulting ministries and public bodies to account in the public, in Parliament, and then follow-up action can be taken.
I am just waiting. I am not aware, except when you have a clear case of fraud. I am not aware of where persons have breached certain regulations. And as a matter of fact, my memory of that FAA, I can't recall it tells you that if an organization fails to submit their annual reports, well, the head will be suspended or be removed from their post. I don't recall seeing that at all. You just simply go to Parliament and talk.
There is no great evidence that follow-up has been done in terms of the defaulting public bodies and the persons who are heading them.
Yes.
Brought to books. But we do know that there is scrutiny and faults found, but there's not evidence put out to the public that as a result of these discrepancies, these failings, these breaches, certain persons are asked to suffer certain sanctions.
Let me ask you, the Auditor General, she has any prosecutorial authority?
No, that is what I am saying.
So she does.
Only report to Parliament. The Public Accounts Committee must then take it up and bring these persons and bodies before the public gaze for accountability. After that, now, it is for the head of the ministry within the legal framework to take action.
But suppose the head is also responsible. Yes, what I'm trying to find out, Wendel, we are depending on the devil to change his ways.
Well,
And
put it this way.
yes,
There is a legal framework, which I keep mentioning, that deals with all of these things. But we don't know, the public doesn't know if that legal framework has been put in place and action taken. So we only get one aspect, which is in Parliament, and we do not know what happened effectively after that.
so let me ask you something. At what
Yeah.
point a body like the police or any of those bodies which are not part of or linked to at a ministry, at what point will they be able to come in and prosecute, for example, the head of an organization that is responsible for producing annual reports, and annual reports have not been produced for the past probably 5, 6, 7, 8 years?
No. Remember what we are talking about here is a framework of public accountability and transparency is not a crime.
Well, I'm saying to you, sir, that is the problem. That is the problem. When an organization...
All these breaches, are not necessarily crimes to attract the police and the Director of Public Prosecution. Some may be, for example, if there's criminal fraud.
And I will tell you something.
Sometimes failure to follow the legal framework that I have mentioned, the Financial Administration and Audit Act, the Public Bodies Management and Accountability Act, and so forth. They have their own sanction system, which doesn't involve police, lockup, and prosecution.
Because the higher you go up, I will tell you, Wendell, there's less accountability. In the country that I love to see, if the financial reports are not published for a certain amount of years, then somebody would have to pay for it. I'm putting it to you, my good friend, that Jamaica is set up in such a way. I can't forget when I worked at a place, and I will tell you which place, it was at Air Jamaica. And when I was literally thrown in the IT department, and I probably should show off now that they wrote a system, a pass bureau system, some very qualified persons, and it couldn't work one day. I had absolutely no training in programming, and I was asked to, a lady who thought I could do it, I think she must have been a crazy woman, to write a software so we can keep track of staff travel. I did just that. I was so proud of myself, but I realized, guess what? Those higher up in the company also issued rebates for travel. So I was so proud of myself, said, no, I am now ready to write the ones that executive, to control the travel that executives give out. And I was simply told, no, that's not important. That's the culture of the country we live in, mister. So those at the bottom got caught, yes, because we found out that there was some fraud. And those at the top who could give tickets to various persons, and when you give tickets, you don't say, you shake one man's hand.
The legal framework of accountability and transparency for public sector bodies doesn't have any exception, for the people at the top, because all are required to come under the legal framework. But it's a question of whether the legal framework is being implemented.
All right.
And who is going to do it. You have the Public Services Commission. As we know, they deal with one aspect of it.
Yeah. Let me go for a break. I'll come back. This is very interesting, but I can tell you, any day I see the head that the law has been changed. So any day that the financial reports have not been produced for 2-3 years, somebody will have to go to jail, either the minister or the permanent secretary. Then and only then, things will change. So what you have now, if a man thief Aki, you lock him up, give him 2 liquor and can go to jail and lock him up for 1 year. But at the top, when we are in breach, we just talk about it in Parliament, and it becomes a political thing. But no real punishment to suffer like little man at the bottom. What a life, what a country. Wendel Wilkins, the people's lawyer. We only have about 2 minutes, my brother. But,
so what we're saying here, the legal framework is they're set up with various laws for accountability and transparency in the democracy, but not all infractions of those laws will attract the criminal side of the law. So if you commit a fraud, that's a criminal offense.
Right.
So you
But what I am
can
pushing
report
for,
him by the
Wendell,
police.
that these things must be treated as criminal offenses too. Because failure to give certain information on an annual basis can encourage corruption and fraud. Because when you don't have
No,
certain
but,
reports.
but how the system works, and you have to understand how the system works, you know. When the Auditor General goes in and detects fraud, then the police will be called in.
No, but
If there is
now I'm
fraud.
saying to you, I would, if I was in charge, so the law would be changed. So failure to produce your annual report would be seen as a criminal offense in the
Yes,
new
that-
country that I would love to see.
That is left to the parliamentarians to do.
No,
So I
sir.
don't
That should be
think
left to the
anything
people. That should be left to the people of this country who determine that any time an organization does not produce a financial report, it must be some extenuating circumstance. If you
Yes.
can't, then it becomes a criminal offense. You'll probably be fired.
Normally, the criminal law is not used where there's a failure to do a report. There are other sanctions, but not the criminal sanction.
No, but in my system, it will be a crime.
Okay.
That's
That's fine.
whenever that becomes a crime, I'm not going to ask you. You will see a different
Yeah.
country.
So there are a number of laws in the framework. You have the Integrity Commission part of it too.
That's another.
Commission.
I tell you, we'll come to it, but that's another joke. I'm convinced.
Yeah, you
Waste
have
of time.
Indicom law that looks at the police and the security forces. You have public procurement law. So there's
Yeah.
lots of laws in the framework to ensure that public bodies and public monies are dealt with in the right and proper way and reports made. Lots of room for improvement, there's no doubt, and lots of more information is needed as to what are the sanctions
Right.
when they are breached.
We have to go now, Wendell.
Yes.
It's now exact. All the best, my friend. I
Yes,
beg of you.
thank
We
you,
have to
thank you.
touch on it next week again, Master. No, we have to touch it serious. All right. Thank you very much. Wendell Wilkins,
Bye-bye.
the people's lawyer.